There's a number that quietly runs the world, not the Dow Jones, not the Fed funds rate, not GP. It's a 3-digit number printed on a screen in trading floors from London to Singapore every second of every day. And when it moves even by $2 or $3, it ripples outward through every economy on Earth like a stone dropped in still water. Airlines reprice tickets, trucking companies renegotiate contracts, farmers recalculate fertilizer costs, governments rewrite budgets. The number is the price of a barrel of crude oil. Right now it's somewhere around 80. Last time it hit 47 was 2008, right before the financial crisis. The last time it went negative, meaning producers were paying people to take oil off their hands because storage was completely full, was April 2020, during the first month of COVID lockdowns. Negative, a number that wasn't supposed to be mathematically possible in commodity markets. Oil doesn't just power cars and planes. It's in the plastic of your phone case, the fertilizer that grew your food, the asphalt under every road you've ever driven on. The modern world isn't built on oil. The modern world is oil, reorganized into a million different forms. And the game that determines who controls it, who profits from it, who gets destroyed by its price swings, that game is running constantly, at every level, from a drilling platform in the Gulf of Mexico to a trading desk on Wall Street to a narrow waterway in the Persian Gulf that 20% of the world's energy supply passes through every single day. Here's what that game actually looks like. From the bottom to the very top. Level 1, the roughneck, West Texas. 4:30 and the mud is everywhere and the money is in tea. The alarm goes off at 4:15 because the drive to the rig takes 45 minutes on a good day, and the roads in the Permian Basin are not good roads. You make coffee in a thermos because the coffee at the rig site is something that can technically be called coffee, and that's where the charitable description ends. You drive out through the dark, past the pump jacks that dot the Texas landscape like giant metal birds perpetually bowing, and you think about the fact that somewhere under this flat, unremarkable land, there is more oil than most countries will ever see, and your job is to help get it out. You are a roughneck, driller's assistant, technically, though the title on your paycheck is less interesting than the work. You operate equipment on a drilling rig that goes anywhere 5,000 to 15,000 feet into the earth, pulling up the crude that was deposited there over 300 million years by organisms that had existed for 299 million years before you were born. The work is physical in a way that most physical work isn't. It's not just heavy, it's sustained heavy, 12 to 14 hours of it in heat that in summer regularly hits 105 degrees on the rig floor, around equipment that can kill you in ways that happen quickly and ways that happen slowly. Hydrogen sulfide gas. High pressure lines. Pipe that weighs thousands of pounds moving in ways that require absolute attention, because the moment you stop paying attention is the moment something goes wrong that you don't recover from. You make 28 an hour on a good rotation. 21 days on, 7 days off. In a good year with overtime, you can clear 70,000. That sounds decent until you account for the fact that you are spending 21 days out of every 28 away from your family, sleeping in a man camp that is exactly as comfortable as it sounds, and doing work that accumulates in your body in ways that your knees and your back will remind you of in 10 years. The thing about being a roughneck that nobody who hasn't done it understands is the relationship with the oil price. You don't think about it the way the traders think about it or the way the executives think about it. You think about it the way someone thinks about weather as a force that determines your life that you have absolutely no influence over. When oil is at 80 a barrel or above, the rigs are running. Your overtime is real. The company is talking about expansion. When oil drops to 45, the calls start. Contracts get suspended. People go home who aren't sure when they're coming back. In 2015 and 2016, when the Saudi decision to flood the market crashed prices, 150,000 oilfield jobs disappeared in the United States in about 18 months. Companies that had been hiring aggressively were issuing layoff notices that ran to hundreds of pages. Men who had spent 20 years in the Permian were driving to job fairs in other industries, trying to figure out what skills translated. You lived through that? You know what it feels like when the number on the screen in London decides your rent. Your horizon is the rig floor, the mud, the pipe, the next rotation. The price of oil is a weather pattern, something that happens to you, not something you participate in. You have no idea how much of the world is decided by that number. You just know when it's raining. Level 2, the paper barrel trader, New York. The market opens in 4 minutes. You haven't touched oil in your life and you about to move 200 million of it. And if you want to keep following this story all the way to the top, subscribe. It gets significantly more interesting from here. You have never been to West Texas. You have never seen a drilling rig. You have never worn a hard hat or driven on a caliche road or smelled the specific sulfur tang of crude coming out of the ground. You trade oil for a living, not physical oil, paper oil, witty crude futures contracts, each one representing 1,000 barrels of oil that may or may not ever actually move, that you will buy and sell in fractions of seconds based on a continuously updating model of supply, demand, geopolitical risk, weather patterns, refinery utilization rates, and the positioning of every other major player in the market. Your desk has 6 screens. The center 2 show the futures market in real time. The left screen shows news feeds, Reuters, Bloomberg app, plus 3 specialized services that aggregate reports from energy infrastructure around the world. The right screens show your position book and a volatility model your quant team built that you understand about 70% of and trust about 85%. The morning routine starts at 5:30. You read everything from overnight. The Middle East is always the first thing you check, not because you care about the geopolitics in a human sense, but because the Strait of Hormuz is a choke point through which 17 to 21 million barrels of oil transit every day. And anything that creates uncertainty about that transit moves the market immediately and sometimes violently. This morning there's a report from Reuters about heightened naval activity near the strait. 3 sentences. Unconfirmed, the sourcing is vague. You watch the futures price tick up 140 in the 4 minutes between when the report hit the wire and when you finished reading it. $1.40 per barrel times the contracts you reholding is a number that makes your morning coffee taste better. This is the part of the oil market that people who work on rigs don't see and wouldn't fully believe if they did. The price of oil, the number that determines whether the roughneck in Texas gets overtime or gets laid off, is set in large part by people in climate-controlled offices who are making decisions based on models and news reports, and the positioning of other traders who are themselves looking at models and news reports. The physical reality of oil, the extraction, the tankers, the refineries determines the long-run price. But in the short run being anywhere from this morning to the next 6 months, the price is a collective hallucination generated by a market of participants who are all simultaneously trying to be smarter than each other about what the collective hallucination is going to do next. You are very good at this. Your track record over the last 3 years is exceptional. You made $47 million for your fund last year on energy trades alone. You have also, in this career, contributed to oil price spikes that made gasoline unaffordable for millions of people during periods when their wages weren't moving. You have profited from geopolitical instability in regions where the instability was costing human lives. You have, on at least 3 occasions, been on the right side of a trade that moved the price of oil enough to affect decisions in a foreign government's budget. You don't think about this often. When you do, you think about it the way you think about weather. It's a system. You in the system. The system would produce the same outcomes whether you were in it or not. You're not sure that's entirely true. You've thought about it enough to be unsure. Not enough to change anything. The market opens. Your position is up 3.2 million in the first 11 minutes on the back of the Reuters report that may or may not indicate anything real. You start reading the next alert. Level 3, the Vels Captain, Strait of Hormuz. The ship is 300 feet long. The channel narrows to 21 miles. The radar shows something you don't like. The vessel under your command is called a very large crude carrier, which is maritime understatement of the highest order. She is 333 meters long, approximately 3 football fields. She displaces 300,000 tons when fully loaded. At current capacity, she is carrying 2 million barrels of crude oil picked up from a terminal in Ras Tanura, Saudi Arabia, bound for a refinery in South Korea. The cargo is worth, at today's prices, roughly 160 million. The ship herself cost 90 million to build. The insurance policy on the combined operation is something you don't think about too carefully because the numbers make you uneasy. She does not stop quickly. At full speed, about 16 knots. The stopping distance for a fully loaded Vulcan is approximately 3 miles. 3 miles. If something goes wrong ahead of you, you started responding to it 3 miles ago or you didn't respond in time. The Strait of Hormuz is 39 kilometers wide at its narrowest point, but the navigable shipping lanes, the traffic separation scheme that vessels follow are much tighter. Inbound and outbound lanes, 2 miles each, separated by a 2-mile buffer zone. In those lanes, at any given moment, there is more value transiting than the GDP of most countries. You have transited Hormuz 47 times in your career. You have never had an incident. You have also, on 11 of those transits, had interactions with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Navy that you would describe, using careful professional language, as attention-getting. The ERG Navy operates fast attack craft, small, quick, maneuverable vessels that can cover distance rapidly and operate in ways that large commercial ships cannot anticipate or respond to at anything like the same speed. They conduct what they describe as inspections. They shadow vessels. They communicate on radio in ways that can be interpreted multiple ways. They operate in the context of a geopolitical situation that has been described as managed tension for 40 years, which means the tension is real and the management is imperfect. This morning at zone 3:40 local time, your radar operator calls out 3 contacts closing from the northeast, speed approximately 35 knots. They are not broadcasting AIS, the automatic identification system that commercial vessels are required to use. They are running without lights. Your heart rate changes. You don't show it. You've been doing this long enough that the physical response and the professional response have separated. The body does what bodies do, and you continue doing your job. You contact the Maritime Operations Center in Bahrain. You alter course by 7 degrees to put more distance between your hull and the contacts. You wake your chief officer. You do not, under any circumstances, stop the ship, because a stopped Velk in the Strait of Hormuz is a problem that has no good solutions. The contacts close to 800 meters, hold position for 4 minutes, depart, no communication, no explanation, just presence, a demonstration that they were there, that they saw you, that they could have done something different if they had wanted to. You write the incident report. You file it with the Maritime Operations Center and with your company's security department. You estimate this is the 4th similar interaction you've reported this year and the 22nd in your career. You continue on course for the Gulf of Oman. Behind you, the strait is moving 17 million barrels of oil toward the world's markets at the rate it always moves. For now, Level 4 the geopolitical flashpoint, Washington, D.C. The call came in at 2:17 am. Something just happened in the Gulf. The Situation Room at 3 am has a specific quality that briefings and simulations done to replicate. The coffee is real, the tiredness is real. The decisions are real in a way that affects millions of people who are currently asleep and unaware that anyone is making them. The initial report was fragmentary, a kinetic incident, the term being used deliberately, pending confirmation of attribution at a major energy infrastructure facility in the Gulf region. Early indicators suggest significant damage. Secondary reports indicate vessel traffic through the strait is slowing as commercial operators wait for situational clarity. The price of crude oil, which closed at 83 yesterday, opened in Asian markets at 94 and is moving. You are a senior energy security advisor. You have been in this building, in various capacities, for 16 years. You have a doctorate in international relations and have spent the better part of your career studying exactly this scenario, the specific vulnerabilities of a global energy system that has concentrated 20% of its daily transit through a waterway that is 39 kilometers wide and surrounded by a regional flashpoint that has been building pressure for 4 decades. You have wargamed this, literally. The scenario on the table tonight is within the parameters of 3 separate exercises conducted in the last 5 years. The war games told you the following. A sustained strait closure of more than 2 weeks begins producing measurable economic damage across importing nations. A closure exceeding 30 days produces recession-level disruption in economies without significant strategic petroleum reserves. The United States has the largest strategic petroleum reserve in the world, approximately 350 million barrels, which at current consumption rates represents about 17 days of import replacement. 17 days. The military options are real, available, and each of them carries consequences that the briefing documents describe in the careful language of people who have thought very hard about what words to use. You are not describing war. You are discussing the restoration of freedom of navigation in international waters. You are discussing proportionate response to a destabilizing geopolitical event. You are discussing the protection of critical global energy infrastructure. The price of crude is at 1 or 2 as of the last update. The decision in this room will affect every person on Earth who drives a car, heats a home, buys food that was grown with fertilizer and transported by truck. It will affect the roughneck in Texas who doesn't know this meeting is happening. It will affect the tanker captain in the Gulf who filed an incident report 3 weeks ago that worked its way up through channels and now sits in a folder on the table in front of you. The weight of that is real. So is the weight of doing nothing. The briefing continues. The price keeps moving. Level 5, the shadow architect, location undisclosed. The portfolio is up 4.1 billion since Tuesday. You do not appear in news reports. Your fund does not have a public website. The investors in it are sovereign wealth funds, family offices, and a small number of institutional players who found you through relationships rather than marketing materials. You have given one interview in your career in 2009 to a specialized energy finance publication with a circulation of approximately 4,000 people. You have been positioning for this scenario for 7 months. Not because you caused it. You did not cause it. You are not in the business of causing geopolitical events, and anyone who suggests otherwise has confused correlation with causation in a way that flatters the capabilities of private capital beyond what private capital actually possesses. What you do is read systems. You have been reading the energy system for 30 years. You read geological surveys and tanker traffic patterns and refinery utilization rates and the specific body language of OPEC ministers at press conferences. You read the gap between what officials say publicly about strategic petroleum reserves and what the data suggests is actually in them. You read the history of similar moments 1973, 1979, 2008 and the specific ways that price responded in each case and the specific ways it didn't. 7 months ago, the convergence of signals was clear enough that you began building a position: long crude futures, long energy equities, short transportation companies and airlines that would be devastated by sustained price increases. A set of options positions structured to pay off in the specific scenario that is now unfolding in real time. The position is up 4.1 billion since Tuesday. This will not be reported anywhere. The trades are spread across enough counterparties and structured through enough vehicles that the aggregate position is not visible to any single observer. The returns will be distributed to investors who will record them as strong performance in a difficult quarter. The fund will continue operating. You are watching 3 screens: the crude price, the equity markets, a live ship tracking service showing vessel traffic in the Gulf, or more precisely, showing the absence of vessel traffic in the Gulf, the specific, telling emptiness of a waterway that should be full of tankers and isn't. The absence of ships is the trade. You did not create the absence. You anticipated it. The distinction is real, though you understand why some people find it uncomfortable. Your phone has rung 6 times this morning. You have answered twice. The conversations were brief. There is nothing to do now except watch the position perform. Somewhere in West Texas, the overnight crew is rotating out on a drilling platform. The roughneck heading home after 14 hours in the heat doesn't know that the price of oil, the number that runs his life, jumped 22 since he started his shift. He will find out when he gets back to the man camp and checks his phone. He will feel something complicated about it. More hours, probably better rotation, but also somehow the vague sense that something larger is happening that he doesn't fully understand. He's right about that. The screen updates: crude is at 118. You pour a second cup of coffee. Closing: 1 barrel of oil, 42 gallons. Roughly 118 this morning, up from 83 4 days ago. The roughneck who pulled it out of the ground made 28 an hour doing it and has no idea what it's worth now. The trader who bought and sold contracts representing it 10 times over made millions without ever touching it. The captain who transported it through one of the most contested waterways on Earth filed an incident report that worked its way into a briefing that influenced a decision that moved markets. The advisor in the situation room weighed options that will affect billions of people. The fund manager who read the signals 7 months early collected the financial return that the chaos produced. Same barrel, different worlds. The oil market is not a simple thing. It is a system of nested incentives and asymmetric information and geopolitical pressure and financial engineering and physical reality, all running simultaneously, all affecting each other in ways that nobody fully models because nobody has a model that captures all of it. What it produces, reliably, is this: the people closest to the physical reality bear the most risk and capture the least return. The The people furthest from it, the ones for whom oil is numbers on a screen, capture the most. That's not an accident. That's the architecture. The price is moving again. It always is. If this is the kind of story you want more of, subscribe. It genuinely keeps this going. And if something here landed wrong or you know this world from the inside, say so in the comments.